Welcome to How to Be a Person, a podcast about life with me, your host, Giuliano Grimaudo. Anna, thanks so much for joining me. How's it going?
It's great. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to have you. So, I always say this at the beginning. Maybe it's unnecessary, but we've never met before. We've just talked briefly right before
Mm.
we jump on, and that's kind of the way I like to do things is just get to know people on the fly. So, for me and also for anybody listening, Anna, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Anna Brook, and I live in New York City. Uh, I have a lot of things going on in my life, so yeah. So my profession is a pharmacist. So I'm a
Okay.
licensed pharmacist in my state, and I also got certified as holistic health coach.
Mm,
Maybe the last 5 years. So I got into that health space where you can focus not only from the medicine perspective, not
hmm.
traditional way we treat symptoms, but really from a holistic point of view. So I got interested in that, and I learned and got certified and started coaching clients
Mm,
on how to become more of who you are with natural tools and practices that available to all of us. And
yeah.
I'm also passionate about personal development and mental health. So I started my own podcast back in 2022. It's
Okay.
called Intern. You can see
Oh
the
yeah,
name.
there's a sign behind you. How did I miss
Yeah.
that?
So that's something that I'm passionate about, and I
Yeah.
want to spread the mental health awareness. And I
Hmm.
also have um, guests coming on my podcast where we talk about how they overcame certain adversity in their life, what they can
Mm.
share with the audience. So that's, in a nutshell, what I do. And
Yeah.
it's very much intense, but like it's covering a lot of aspects of
Yeah.
what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I have a ton of questions per
Of
usual.
course, let's start.
But so first of all, you said that you're in New York right now?
Yes, New York
And
City.
and how long have you lived in New York?
For about 16 years, I would say.
16 years?
Yes,
Okay. Wow, that's a long time.
long
I
time.
know obviously you have an accent. You're from
I'm Russian.
Okay.
Yes, yes. I came from Russia, from Moscow, back in 2009, and I kind of transferred my degree. I was in chemistry major, so I finished
Mm,
my degree first here, got my bachelor's, and decided to go for pharmacy school. That's
mm.
how I got licensed as a pharmacist and started practicing.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So you came from Russia straight to New York and you haven't left
Yes.
New York since.
Never left since. Yeah. And I'm glad that I came because, like, nowadays, when we look at the political view of what's
Sure.
happening, I was always kind of like fast to make decisions when
Mm,
some kind of opportunity arises.
okay.
And I would see that it's of benefit for my own growth, and I wouldn't be scared to act upon it. So I think a lot of times we kind of miss those opportunities, and
Mm,
the more we're aware of what's happening around us and knowing that actually it's not a mistake, there is no error, it comes to you because there is a reason for it.
mm.
And in some kind of way you kind of attracted that experience. So if you
Interesting.
can see it clearly, yeah, then you become more aware, and also knowing that it will lead you towards perhaps some purpose in your life. So I
Sure.
was kind of attracted, and I like New York City,
Okay.
and I always wanted to move here since I've been here first time, and this is how my journey started.
I love that. I also love what you said about like that there really isn't such thing as a like an error or a mistake.
No.
I feel like that's something I've really realized over time that
Yeah.
because I have people, friends in my life who would be like, "Oh man, like, so that was a mistake, huh?" And it's like, nah,
Mm,
mistake? No, I don't think so. Like for me, I feel like if you follow what you feel compelled to do, even
right.
if in this moment maybe it didn't go as planned or it's
Mm,
working out in a way that you're like, this doesn't feel positive, I feel like, well, but how do you know it's not going to work out in a positive way? How do you know you're not going to be better off for it? So for me, I
right.
look back at like decisions on my life too, and I'm like, even if it didn't go the way I planned, I don't believe in mistakes because I feel like everything that I am right now, and I feel like for anybody, if they truly like themselves, and if
Mm-hmm.
you love yourself, it's like all we are as human beings is like the sum of all of our experiences up until this point, right?
Yeah, and like
So if you
usually we
like
see
yourself, you got to like everything that you've been through, you know?
everything, and it's the whole package. It's like nobody's perfect, right?
Yeah.
And we are imperfectly perfect in a sense. So
Hmm.
everyone is a mess as a human being,
A
right? But
mess.
in that mess, there is something that is born within you, something that is emerges, and
Mm,
you find your own gifts, your own talents, your own skills, your passion. What is it that you would love doing for the rest of your life? And for you to discover that, you are presented with certain experiences, you meet certain people, and that is kind of like a reflection for you to go within, because everything that you see is for you to learn more about yourself, to connect with who you are, to be aligned with your values, with your desires. And that, over time becomes more clear. And again, like we don't see it in the moment, but like you mentioned, when you look back,
mm.
you understand why it happened.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that you said that. What popped in my head is, so I think part of the reason why it's really easy for a lot of people to view certain things as like mistakes or like, oh, I
Mm,
made the right decision or the wrong decision is because I don't know if, and I say I don't know. The fact is that not everybody, and I would say even a very small percentage of people view their life as like, I'm trying to discover more about myself. I'm trying to learn more. I think a lot of people just operate, right? They just go through
yeah.
life and they have expectations of what it's supposed to be. And so when you look, you're like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted, or I'm not getting
Mm,
what I feel like I should have right now. Therefore, that was a mistake. Instead of
mm,
the view of what you said, like if you view your life, like the point of your life is to learn, like the
yes.
point of your life is to discover more about yourself and like what you're here to do, then it's much easier to look back at your experience and you're like, yeah, it was perfect. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, there was some crazy stuff and some stuff that I don't want to live through again, but it literally was
Hmm.
perfect because now I'm here where I am now and I know so much about myself and I know what direction I'm going in. And I'm only going to know more as time goes by,
Yeah.
whether it was the right decision or wrong decision.
Yeah, and usually it's not such thing that's right or wrong. It's
Hmm.
just what is. If we just
Yeah.
accept what is and know that it's happening for us, for our own benefit in one way or another, even if we don't see it in the moment, if we
Mm.
look from that perspective and accept it, and not resist it, not reject it, then it will be easier for us to go through that experience. And
Hmm.
actually, we are the ones giving it meaning in the first place.
Mm.
In the same type of experience, different
Mm.
people could give different meanings. So it's
Absolutely.
not like it has inherent meaning in itself, but
Hmm.
you are the one decided what it's going to be for you.
Yeah, yeah. I thought about that today because I saw a reel earlier today where someone was talking about the same topic, and what popped in my head is like a car accident. If I was like,
Mm,
I got into a car accident, is that good or bad? And someone was like, that's bad, like that's
yeah.
terrible, like oh my gosh, like let's say for me, right? I drive Uber. Someone could be like,
Hmm.
oh, like that's terrible, like that's how you make money, like it must be bad. And like, what if somebody was like, well, actually, I'm so glad I got into a car accident because I was upside down on my car loan and now the insurance just completely paid off my car and now I don't have a car payment anymore and it's
Yeah.
amazing, right? Like two people can go through the exact same experience and they could be like,
Right.
that was perfect, like that totally fixed my situation. And I think that's like a really logical example, right? Like where someone could be like, oh,
Hmm.
that makes sense how that would be a good experience for this person because they didn't get hurt and their car got paid off, right? And so it's
Hmm.
easy to like make it make sense logically, but the fact of the matter is that that's true in every circumstance, right? Every single
Yes,
thing that happens, it's our
everything.
choice of whether or not we're going to look at it as a positive or a negative. And ultimately, it is how we look at it that determines whether or not it was a positive or a negative, not just the
Right.
logical circumstances surrounding it.
Yeah, and that's true. And that's what you're going to extract from that experience for yourself. If you decided to look through the lens of it is for me and it is of benefit, even if I don't know it at this moment, but I know it's only happening for my own growth. That's
Mm,
all. That's all you need to know because usually you know it
yeah.
afterwards more
Yeah.
clear why it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a good point because if that is your attitude going through it, then you don't have to suffer through it. Right? Like
No.
you're allowed to have your feelings. It's totally right. I'm not saying like not to feel your feelings, you should, but also I feel like you get through those feelings much quicker. Like
Hmm.
you let yourself feel them and you're like, I don't know how, but this is somehow working in my favor and I'll figure it out later.
Yes, actually, feelings or emotions, they supposed to go through you without any resistance. So the more
Yes.
you allow yourself to feel on a regular basis, every day, whatever arises within you is just for your own information.
Mm,
It's not to harm you or for you to suffer. Of course, we all go through different type of emotions. Some of them
hmm.
are unpleasant, and sometimes we avoid feeling them by distracting ourselves with different type of addictions,
So
you
true.
name it.
So
Nowadays
true.
people choose whatever they like to not feel it, but
Hmm.
in the end of the day nothing will pass until you allow yourself. So it will be stuck within your body. It will manifest in some kind of physical
Yes.
symptom if you don't
Yes.
allow yourself to really feel those emotions on a regular basis. And this is how you kind of like start treating yourself more in a way that you would treat a child. Let's say like you have that
Mm,
inner child, so now you are a parent to that inner child. So if that child is hurt, how would you approach it? How would you talk to that person, right?
yeah.
So you should look at it from the same type of situation. It's just you now, and you're the one responsible for yourself, for your own mental, physical,
Mm,
emotional health. And you
I
should
see.
prioritize that health no matter what's happening. You should always make it a priority.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Totally agree. So I wanted to ask you, because I thought it was funny that you're like, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I'm going way back to the beginning when you were talking
Yeah,
about that you're a pharmacist, and then you're like, oh, but I
right.
also like holistic like health and all this stuff. I think it's so funny, and like I feel like most people's reaction is like, wait, what? Like those feel like two totally different things. How did you like? Where did that come from? Like you went from like this totally,
Hmm.
let's call it secular side, right, where it was like very like medicine, right, and focused like
Right.
it's as a pharmacist, right, that's what you're doing,
Yes.
and then the complete like just polar opposite, right? Like
Yes.
it's not the case that most people are like both, right? It's just either they're super like secular or like kind of leaning more towards the holistic side. So I'm just curious to
Right.
hear like how that happened and all of that.
Oh, of course, yes. So I got into pharmaceuticals first and got my degree as a pharmacist because I always liked science. Math and chemistry were like easy for me at school,
Mm,
and those were like subjects that I loved. So around those subjects, I chose something that would fit, me as a person and what I love
yeah.
about, human body and how everything works, how to help a person. So I'm kind of like also very intuitive and helping people. Like I feel what is it that they need at this moment, but also knowing how medication work, you kind of know what to advise. And whenever I consult patients, that's actually my highlight of the day as a pharmacist, talking to patient, not just
Sure.
dispensing medication.
Yeah.
But I've been practicing that for like 7 8 years now. And over time, what I realized that traditional medicine is focusing more on the treating symptoms
Yeah.
approach, not
Yeah.
fixing the cause of the issue,
Yeah.
really. So pharma, big pharma, especially in the United States, it's a multi-billion-dollar company,
Yeah.
and they need people who are sick, so they're not
Yeah.
interested in healing you,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
they just giving you medication, and a lot of people taking those maintenance drugs for something that is actually acquired over time with them not following the lifestyle
Mm.
that is healthy for them. A
Yeah.
lot of things, a lot of conditions could have been avoided, like blood pressure, diabetes, all of that. And everything kind of like connected to the way you treat your body and your mind. So once I realized that we, in order to really heal, in a sense that, overall health, you need to look at it from a different point of view, not just giving the medication. So
Mm-hmm.
what exactly could address the actual cause of those conditions, and how
Yeah.
to prevent even acquiring them over time. So everything comes back to the lifestyle, to the habits, actually the habits that we have, and that could be changed, and every single one of us could start treating ourselves differently if we choose to. It's all it takes is a decision and a
Mm.
commitment to start doing something different in your life. But you have to
Mm.
understand it's not over time, and it requires your willingness to
Mm.
change, because not
Mm.
everybody is ready for change.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, and I've been really like fascinated with the holistic health coaching, and
Yeah.
it's also connected with the diet, exercise, and the mind. So like
Yeah.
all of those aspects, emotional health, mental health, physical health, right? So all of them, we need to look at it as being important in our overall health, and
Mm.
treat them as such, because
Yeah.
especially in mental health, it's often overlooked, and we don't give it enough attention that it
Yeah.
requires, and we think it's not as important. We only start treating something if we see a physical symptom, but physical
Mm-hmm.
symptom, it's too late. It's something
Yeah.
happened like over time for it to appear, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've been ignoring something for a long time, and now it's in your face. Now you can't really like avoid it anymore.
Yeah.
But in order to prevent it, we just need to start treating ourselves differently. And
Yeah.
like you mentioned before, self-love, and mostly it's worthiness. Like this
Mm.
is something that
Yeah.
a lot of people struggle with, to really to see how worthy are they. So to in order for us to really start prioritizing our health, we need to know deep inside that we are here for a reason,
Mm.
that we are here to share our unique skills, gifts, abilities with other, as a service to other people. But in
Yeah.
order for us to be our best self, in order for us to even share that, first we need to fill our own cup. First we need to give ourselves care that care that we need and that we crave, and give ourselves what we need, and we're the ones that gonna do it for us. Once we realize that, everything changes, because you can't really find that fulfillment outside of you. It would never be enough. You
Mm-hmm.
start looking within.
Okay, you said so much and it's amazing, and I have so many things to add on to it. Okay, so first of all, halfway through that, I was giggling because um I like 3 years ago I put together a course about habits.
Mm,
Okay. It was called Habit
yes.
Hacks, and I never sold it. And then I
Mm.
remembered it and I was like, you know what? I should sell that course again. I rewatched it and I was like, this is
Yeah.
fantastic stuff. And it's so funny because it's exactly what you were saying. Like,
Mm.
about like people not being ready to make like just massive overhaul changes that they need to make. And so like in the course I talk about like here's how to make like tiny changes that are going to add up to
Yes.
big ones. So like shameless plug here, like I'm about to start selling that course. It's called Habit Hacks.
Mm.
So people can
Nice.
get it on my website,
Great.
howtobeaperson.co. It'll be available there like really soon, probably within the
Mm-hmm.
next day or two. But the other thing I was going to mention, actually, there's like several things about what you said, but I totally
Mm-hmm.
in agreement with all of it. So when you talk about like pharma, it's so funny
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people who are like, all right, like, you know, like treating it almost like as if it's a conspiracy. And you're like, bro, it's not a conspiracy. It's just how business works, right? Like
Yes.
they're in business, like they make
It's for
money from you
profit.
being
It's
sick. Yes,
it's for profit.
exactly. It's
So
not a charity, right? They're not doing this for free. And
no.
I feel like a good comparison is let's say there was a doctor and all they knew how to fix, all they knew how to do was fix a broken bone. And
Mm-hmm.
that was how they made a living. Ultimately, even if they're doing it because they care about people, that person cannot make a living if people aren't breaking bones,
Mm.
right? Like, and
Yeah.
so you have to understand it's like that's the same thing with these pharmaceutical companies. Like, the fact of the matter is that if people are not sick and are not taking their medication, they
Mm-hmm.
can't make money. So it's not a conspiracy. And I also don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it's just about awareness, right? Like, you have to be
Right.
aware what their incentive is. Their incentive
Yes.
is for you to keep taking medication.
Right.
But the other part of it, along with like what you said about not people not making the connection, right, about the
Mm-hmm.
symptoms, it's same thing with the broken bones, right? If you go
Mm.
in, there's a place for these things, right?
Of
Like,
course.
treating the symptoms is important, right?
Yes.
If you break a
It
bone, you want
is.
someone to treat the symptoms, right? You want
Yes,
to
I
have pain
agree.
medication, right? All of those
Yeah.
things. But ultimately, the doctor cannot help you if every time you go home, you keep breaking your bone, right?
Mm, yeah.
Whatever it was that broke the bone in the first place, if you keep doing that thing,
Of course.
what else could you possibly expect? But there tends to be a disconnect, right, between these
Mm.
symptoms that we're having and the fact that we're the ones causing them. And so
Yes.
it's totally true. It's like we have to, it's like you said, I think where it comes from is this accumulation, right? You
Mm.
don't realize it's these tiny habits that you've been participating in over time that have gotten
Right.
you to where you are. And therefore, right, because you don't make that connection, you go, oh, my doctor can fix it with pills. It's like all they're
Mm.
doing is treating the symptoms. You are creating this, right? You're creating it. And therefore
I think
you
it's
have to
painful.
change that.
It's painful for people to accept the fact that they are the
Hmm.
ones causing harm to themselves because we like blaming other people's circumstances or conspiracies,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
And being a victim in that circumstances, it's easier than taking responsibility. So that's why I said not everybody is ready for change. For them, to really
Yeah.
wake up from that, mindset, from that, looking from that perspective as a victim.
Hmm.
Sometimes, people hit rock bottom, or like
Yeah.
have like near death experiences, or really something bad is happening.
Yeah.
And then they realize, so all this time, it was screaming at my face and I didn't see it. First it started as a whisper, then it got louder, louder. And now, then, when you come to this point where you have no choice, then you see it. But it doesn't have to be that radical, that, extreme. You don't have to wait until that moment. So those habits that you mentioning is really, it's no secret, right? It's like a lot of us, I think people wait for what is the secret because they want overnight success,
Yeah.
or they want like uh, fast fix,
Yeah. The
something that
magic
will,
bullet.
magic bullet, give me that pill that will, take away all of my suffering. But
Hmm.
no, first of all, you have to take responsibility, knowing that
Hmm.
it's you who causing all of that to yourself. And second of all, knowing that it will take time to change the habit and to start treating yourself differently.
Mm.
And are you willing, do you really prioritize your health enough to give yourself time on a daily basis and be committed to change?
Yeah.
Even sometimes you're not in the mood for it, but you still have to keep going. And for you to develop a habit, it has to be at least 30 days to start familiarizing yourself with something new,
Mm-hmm.
something that you never done before.
Mm-hmm.
And it is uncomfortable. Of course, it's going to be out of your comfort zone, but that's where it changes.
Yeah. It's so funny. I can't tell you how much of what you're saying was like exactly what, because I told you I just rewatched my course. I was like, that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah.
Like that, like you don't have to wait. Like if you know that, like for example, let's say you want to change your habits around
Mm-hmm.
your health, okay? Like
Right.
and like your diet and your exercise, okay? You don't have to wait until you have a heart attack, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can sit down right now and be like, where am I going to be in 5 years if I don't change this? Where am I going to
Mm-hmm.
be in 10 years? Where am I going to be in 20 years? You can literally put yourself in that mindset right now and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, I don't want to end up in that place." And then you can use that as fuel to now be like, "Okay, I'm going to start making changes now
Yes.
so that when I do fast forward 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that the outcome is different."
Mm.
Um, so before you were talking about mental health, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And man, it's so like okay, I love when people bring this up with regard to health because it really is like arguably the most important part. Okay? So
Yeah.
like first of all, when you were talking about like when you find your thing like that you're like meant to
Mm.
do,
Right.
so part of it has to do with like you have like self-worth, right? Like you were saying, and like you're
Mm-hmm.
worthy of taking care of yourself, right? You're like, I
Yes.
want to stay alive.
Because
Okay.
you're here for a reason.
Yes, but that's the thing, right? It's just like I was saying before. There's a lot of people who are just kind of going through life and doing what's expected of them. And there's
Mm.
nothing wrong with, right? You have a job, like I have a job,
Yeah.
like people go and do their job, and that's totally okay. But if you are only doing that and you're only doing it because of what's expected of you, and you don't feel like you have a higher purpose or like a specific reason for being
Mm-hmm.
here, like for you personally, then I feel like you don't understand this. Right. I feel like you don't
Yeah.
get it because when you do feel that way, when you feel like I've discovered like this is what I'm here for and you like want it, like all of the like everything about your health, your exercise, your nutrition, like everything, like it immediately becomes a top priority because you're like, I have stuff to
Mm.
do. Like I have
Right.
stuff I gotta get done. Like I'm here to get something done. And like those
Yeah.
things that are holding you back because you don't realize it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like your health is holding you back from doing those things. And you go, oh, I need to fix this. I must fix this. Not
Mm.
like, oh, I really should lose weight. I know I should. No, no, no. It becomes
Mm.
this has to change immediately
Right.
because I have bigger things to do. I have bigger
Yes.
things to do that are more important than eating pizza, right?
Of
I have bigger
course.
things that are
Yeah.
more important to do than sitting on the couch.
Yes, and even like you mentioned, people, okay, you can ask them in 5, 10 years from today where you see yourself. It's one way of looking at it. Another way, you just look around right now because what is the most important thing is to be aware here and now. And for you to come back to the present moment, first look around and see, are you happy with what you have? Are you feeling fulfilled at your job or whatever it is that you do? Is it something that gives you that sense of fulfillment?
Mm,
Do you feel like this is something you want to do for the rest of your life?
mm,
Because when we are in a flow of our creative, energy, we have to find that outlet, that passion, that creativity that's going through us. It will bring us to this state where we just forget about time. Everything just like stops. You are so consumed with what you're doing,
hmm.
and you feel happy just
Yeah,
doing that,
yeah,
and like, and it's no brainer for, you feel good about what you're doing,
yeah.
it's of benefit for other people.
Mm,
And this is just something you're good at. it has to be an intersection with what is it that you're good at, what is that brings benefit for other people, and what you can be paid for. So all
Yes.
of those intersects, and it's like giving you that understanding. And it's also like about the feeling, are you in that flow state? Are you waking up every morning looking forward to that thing that you're gonna
Mm,
do, or
yes.
you are struggling to go to job and you hate it every second of it,
Mm,
and just dreaming when you're gonna quit it? Because if you look right now what you have in terms of personal, professional, romantic relationship, whatever, every aspect of your life right now, and you're not happy about it, you're not fulfilled, first of all, you have to realize if you don't change the way that you approach every type of relationship, starting within yourself,
mm,
nothing will change in your life. This is
yeah.
number one. If you want to have what you have right now to continue, don't change. If you're not happy with what you have right now and you understand that you are the one created that for yourself, then you have to realize that something has to change,
Mm,
otherwise it will be the same.
yeah.
So, and that's a harsh truth, but you have to wake up. How is it that you're spending your time every single day? Are you binge watching? Are you, I don't know, going to bars? Or what is it that you do? Or you
Yeah.
playing like on playing games? What is your vision? What is it that excites you,
Mm,
inspires you?
yeah.
You should have some kind of vision or desire. Maybe it starts as a hobby. Like I said, you have to find something creative for
Yeah.
yourself, something that fulfills your soul, so you just feel so good when you think about it.
Yeah.
Even few hours a day you can dedicate to that thing. Like if you do 9 to 5, you still have 5 to 9, right? So can you find like couple hours a day to start working on something that really gives you that sense of fulfillment, and over
Yeah.
time it grows. Because sometimes like we don't know all the steps, but the next step, and then the next
Yeah.
step, and once you
Yeah.
start taking the next step, more will be revealed, more people you will meet, and it
Yes.
will unfold in a way that you can't even imagine.
Yeah. I love this conversation because I feel like the typical conversation around mental health, and the typical solution has to do with medications, right? I talked about
Yeah.
this recently with another guest where, because you like the science, right? So it's like when someone is
Yes.
depressed, it's a chemical imbalance, okay? But to
Mm-hmm.
only treat the chemical imbalance is to ignore the fact that the chemical imbalance is there for a reason, right?
Mm.
It's there to indicate that you are missing
Right.
purpose. You are missing fulfillment in your life. And I'm not going to, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert. I can't claim that, like, there are some people who genuinely, like, their life is amazing and they feel so fulfilled, but somehow there's still a chemical imbalance. I can't say that I'm, maybe that is the case. But in every situation that I have seen with someone depressed, if you really dig down deep,
Mm-hmm.
that person is not doing what actually makes
Right.
them feel fulfilled. They do not feel like they have a purpose in their life. And so for me, that's why I say I feel like it's really important that this conversation is had, that it's not just like, oh, you're depressed, here are some pills and like be on your way. Because
Mm.
or also, because see this, because this is the conversation. It's again, I don't discount the pills, right?
Right.
That's like your job, right? So I
Yes.
don't discount it. I think it has a place. But it's the same thing, right? Like on one end you have the pills, on the other end you have therapy. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with therapy either. But I feel like both of them are like on either side of like the main issue, which is
Mm-hmm.
purpose, which is fulfillment. Is like, what is
Right.
your life right now? Are you doing what you feel you are meant to do? And if the answer is no, that it's easily explained. This is why you're
Mm-hmm.
this is why you're depressed.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily about being productive, right? Because I liked what you said, how
No.
you were like, you have a 9 to 5, but you also have 5 to 9. Like, find your
Right.
thing and do this. I could see some people feeling like, well, but I already work 9 to 5. What? I got to find another way to be productive. It's not about that. The point is that if you haven't found your thing, like, realize it's still out there. Like, your
Mm-hmm.
thing is still out there somewhere. And if you're not happy, if you're not feeling fulfilled, and if you are feeling depressed, there's a good chance that there's something out there that will literally light a fire in you that you almost cannot be depressed ever. Right? It's like when you
Yeah.
find that thing, it's like you said, you wake up in a flow state.
Right.
You like wake up and you're like ready to jump out of bed and go tackle the day because you're doing the thing that you love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think those mental health conditions, either anxiety or depression, it's usually repressed passion. It's repressed
Mm,
passion within you that not you're not giving outlet. That creative energy, it needs outlet, and
mm,
because you're not really doing anything that will bring it up, you kind of like repress it, and it appears as if you're feeling sad or you're feeling
interesting.
lonely. Yeah, and you kind of like ignore those symptoms. And yeah, of course, it's easier to take a pill, and
Yeah.
with that chemical imbalance, then it kind of like gives you, temporarily relief, I would say. You start feeling a little better because you took that pill, but nothing really went away. It's still the same issue. And
Mm,
again, like you continue taking medicine every single day to just not feel that bad, but
mm.
it's a feedback from your body.
Yes.
It's an information for you that you're
Yes.
ignoring. You keep
Yes.
ignoring it. And until you address it within yourself, you're gonna continue taking those medication for a long time. But
Yeah.
once people um, realize, or maybe with the help of a practitioner, they
Mm-hmm.
kind of start seeing the reason why they feel in this way. It could be connected to some trauma. It could be connected maybe to some programming from childhood,
Sure.
not
Sure.
enough, whatever. Could be
Mm-hmm.
different story for each one of us. But it has to be a reason for you to not acting on your passion, not acting on your excitement, on something that inspires you.
Yeah.
Why is it that you're feeling so passive and not thinking that it's important? Why you're
Mm.
not giving yourself that creative outlet and
Yeah.
start doing something for your own pleasure and joy?
Yeah.
Why you're not doing that? So you have to find the answer for it. The answer is within you.
Yeah.
But again, like you have to be willing to look at it, no matter how ugly you think it's gonna be. Like a lot of
Mm.
times we have that shame and blame around certain topics, right?
Sure.
And for us to really like start looking at it, we know it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be, it will take some, um, it will be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but
Uncomfortable.
it will be for such period of time. But again, with your willingness to really like see the truth, this expression, truth will set you free.
Yeah.
It will be uncomfortable, but as long as you are
Yeah.
willing to look at it, to shine light on something dark. Every one of us has dark side, shadow, self, whatever that is. Um, and that's okay. That's what human
Mm-hmm.
being is. So we're talking about how to be a person. It's part of being a person, right?
Yeah.
So it's not
Yeah.
like somebody is, perfect, that they have nothing to work on. No, every one of us has their own journey they're going through. uh, it could be different, so you never know when you encounter that person what they dealing with. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
be always compassionate towards their journey, but also knowing that nobody's perfect, and
Yeah.
that's okay. And you just need to be courageous enough to not let the fear be in the way of your own healing. You
Mm.
have to again, you have to let yourself feel those emotions that are stuck within your body, to
Yeah.
let this everything out. And every emotion passes through, quite easily, but sometimes it will be more intense in the beginning, but each time you're willing to let it flow, it will be less intense and less intense, and
Yeah.
eventually it will leave your body. So it's just a matter of time, but in that sense you will heal. It's not just you're gonna, you know mask the symptom, but
Yeah.
you will address the issue and you start feeling better. And maybe you will have that motivation, because people who are depressed, they don't have internal
Mm.
motivation to start doing anything. They
Hmm.
don't want to. They just, I don't know, lay down on their bed. They don't want to do anything, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
why is it? Like, you have to ask yourself why you don't have even the desire to do something.
Yeah. So, what's really interesting? So, I have experience with this myself. Like, I've gone through
Yeah.
depression, I've had suicidal thoughts, all of those things. And so,
Mm.
I'm saying that also to kind of preface what I'm about to say, that I'm
Yeah.
not saying this from a place of a lack of experience, but I like everything you're saying. It's part of the reason why I'm resistant to a diagnosis of I have depression,
Mm.
because I personally feel like your feelings are just an indicator, right? So
Yes.
like I never had depression, right? I felt depressed. And that
Right.
depression, like feeling depressed, was an indicator, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, there's a problem. There's a
Yeah.
problem that needs to be fixed. But instead, we have this diagnosis, you have depression, right? And then
Mm.
people take on that label. I
Yeah.
have depression. I have this thing that afflicts me that is outside of my control, that is coming onto
Mm-hmm.
me, right? Instead of it being, I have something in my life needs to change,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what this feeling is. This is an indicator that something needs to change. And I love what you
Yeah.
said before. What it really is
Mm-hmm.
just repressed potential almost, right? Like
Yeah. Repressed
creativity.
passion. Yeah.
Yes, yes, because that's really. I love you when you said it. I was like, that's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Like every single person, I really do believe this. Every single person has so much more potential than they realize, and
Mm-hmm.
so many of us, just because the way that society is built, we like write off that potential, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
people tell us this is what you're supposed to do, this is the next step, and so we go, oh, okay, like right, and we just live our life doing what we're expected to do instead of
Right.
listening to us, listening to ourselves. What do I feel compelled to do? Like, what am I passionate about? Where do I have untapped potential, right? And then
Yeah.
doing those things. And so again, I say all this from a place of like, I have been in that spot where
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if I talk to a doctor, they'd be like, you have depression. But I look back at it now and I'm like, I was just feeling depressed
Mm-hmm.
because I lacked that purpose. And again, I know some people will probably be like, oh, so you didn't really have depression then, right? But I'm telling you, like, look,
Mm.
if I had ended up acting on those suicidal thoughts, everyone would have said I had depression, right? So all I'm
Mm.
saying is that I really do believe this, and I love that you're saying it, because
Yeah.
it's so easy to like just make a disconnection, and almost it comes from a place of, and this isn't like a bad thing, again, because this is kind of just how it's taught, but
Right.
like it's a place of like being a victim, right? Oh, this thing
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. Like I because from no fault of my own, depression just, it's just this thing I have now, right? That I have no control over. I need to fix it with a pill or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And see, this is the comparison that I always use is like when someone is in love, okay? When
Mm.
someone is in love, a scientist can look at that and be like, look at all these chemicals, right, in their brain. They have extra of this and extra of that. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is a chemical reaction that is happening, right, in their brain.
Mm. Right.
But nobody goes, "Oh, I'm not in love. I need a pill." No, you don't do that. You recognize that
Yeah.
that feeling, those chemicals, that specific combination of chemicals of being in love happens by a relationship, right? Like something in the
Yes.
real world that you're doing. You're making a connection with someone, you're building a connection, you're having conversations, you're building your relationship. That is what causes that chemical, whatever makeup in your mind that makes you feel like you're in love. So why are we not realizing it's the same thing when it comes to happiness, right? When someone's depressed,
Mm.
oh, I need pills to fix it. Well, wait. Don't you understand? This is the same thing. Just like when you're in love, you realize that there was a specific out circumstance that was causing that. Okay, so when you're
Right,
depressed, it's the same thing. There are a specific set of circumstances that is causing this chemical imbalance in you, and like take
right.
responsibility for that. It's scary. It's like you said,
Mm,
because I mean, I'm telling you from my own experience, man. There were some things in my life that like you accept because that's how it's always been. That's all you
right,
know. But if you use your feelings as an indicator to tell you that something needs to change and you follow that, like I said, it's very scary to give up a lot of the things that like it's just the only thing you know. But like the
right.
other side of it is just like being in love, right? Like just
Mm.
like those feelings when you're like, it's amazing. Right? You're like, this is the most amazing thing being in love. It's like you could feel that about life. Like you can feel
Right.
in love with life. Just like when you're in love with someone, you see them and you light up. It's how it is when you wake up in the morning. You wake up and you go, "Oh my god, I'm so in love with life." And like you can have
Yes.
that every single day.
Every single day.
Yes.
And I love what you said. Yeah, it's definitely, you can see the parallel between those two examples. And I also wanted to mention how people identify themselves either with that label or certain, um, you know, uh, diagnosis that they
Yes.
get, or a lot of times people identify themselves also perhaps with a role that they play.
Mm.
I am, let's say, so I work as, I don't know, like a driver, I work as a, a doctor, I work as a cashier, so therefore I am this.
Yeah.
No, it's just a role that you used to play in the past, you
Yeah.
chose to play that role.
Yeah.
And diagnosis, okay, maybe you came to the point where that's a signal from your body showing you something, and you don't have to identify yourself with that diagnosis or that symptom that you have. Just take it for what it is, extract information from it,
Hmm.
learn from it. Maybe you need to learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
And again, choose what you want to do with it, because it's not what happens, it's how you react or how you respond to what happens
Hmm.
that matters, really. Like we talked about how we give it a meaning, right? Everything
Yeah.
we have to give it a meaning and see it for what it is, and uh not taking a victim role and saying it's happening, uh and I'm out of control and I cannot do anything to stop it. I just need to just, do whatever people
Yeah.
expect me to do. But it's not the case. We are not our thoughts, we are not our feelings, we are more than that.
Mm.
This is just something that is going through our life, is just something that's showing us a feedback, but we are not that.
Mm.
It's something that we don't realize.
Yeah.
It's a human nature to really create that construct in our mind, that identity, and then we get attached to that
Mm.
identity, and then it's hard for us to
Yes.
give up that identity, because
So true.
that's who we believed ourselves to be all this time. This is
Yeah.
who I am. And when you asking that person to change, they thinking about that identity being dissolved, and
Mm.
it's like an ego death, if you've heard about
Yes.
it. Like
Yes.
it's like a real grief that you're going
Yeah.
through, like a
Yeah.
death of the person and a death of the identity that you need to
Yes.
go through in order to go on the other side of the
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
But it will be, of course, uncomfortable and even maybe sad in some
Hmm.
way, right? But again, knowing that the beliefs about you, what is it that you think you deserve?
Mm.
What do you think you deserve in this life? Who do you think you want to be? What do you think you want to do? Like the actual belief in um, your, like, I would say vision, like what vision do you have for yourself?
Mm,
That's number one. Number two, do you really believe you can achieve that? Right? Because a lot of times we don't have believe in our own abilities and skills, and we don't even start. We from
mm,
the beginning saying ourselves that we're gonna fail in that, right? We start comparing ourselves to other people. We're looking at social media, and you always see that perfect picture, and you think you're a mess, and that person is much better, much superior than you. You start comparing. But all of us, we're all equal in a sense, right? Maybe something that will be easier for you, again, showing you that you should go to that direction, because if it's easy for you doesn't necessarily mean it's easy for somebody else. So you
yes.
have to pay attention, what is
Yes.
it that you gravitate towards to, what is really natural for you,
Hmm.
like really, you think about it and you're like, oh, that's a piece of cake for me,
Yeah.
I can just do it easily, right? So
Yeah.
what is it that, and at the same time, something that will give you joy of
Mm,
doing,
yeah.
right? And it's easy for you to do, and you can
Hmm.
be lost in time doing that, and you be so fulfilled doing that. So what is it? So you just, again, need to discover that, by trying different things. But
Yeah.
again, if you not creating time after
Mm,
your 9 to 5 to do
yeah.
something,
Yeah.
you would not discover that, right?
Yeah.
And another important thing is to bring back your awareness to this present moment. That's another practice that I feel every one of us should prioritize,
Mm,
because the more we hear, the more we come back to this present moment, that's where the change is.
mm,
Because a lot of times you get in stuck thinking about the past, or
yes.
being anxious about the future, and you
Yes.
don't live in now. But now is all that is. So if
Yeah.
you're
It's the
not
only thing
living
that
here,
exists.
right? So again, like, with us to be willing to let go of past identities that we
Yeah.
created in our mind that
Yeah.
no longer serves us
Hmm.
right now. You understand that maybe it served me for, some time.
Yeah.
It played a role in my life. It's okay, but I'm ready to let it go. But that means you ready for it to die, and
Yeah.
for you to start believing in yourself being a different type of person, and not just have that belief and conviction, but start acting and changing the habits in order for you to create that version of you. So
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
just talking and visualizing it, but once you have that desire and willingness, then the next thing is to take an action, to take in steps towards building that.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said about identity. It made me think about how over the years, I feel like I was always like searching for like, what's my thing? What's my thing? And I always used to like put a title, right? I would be like, I'm a life coach, or now I'm a sales
Yeah.
coach, or I'm a, mentor for XYZ, or like just so many different things I would come up with that I was like, oh,
Right.
or like I'm a photographer, I'm a graphic designer,
Mhm.
right? When I would dabble in all these things. And now on my personal profile, like I just says, I'm a person. Right, because that's really
That's
what it
it.
is. It's kind of like what you said, like
True.
I'm not attaching myself to an identity. All I
Hmm.
am is a person. And so for me, I
Hmm.
just go through my life and I just kind of like following, I'm like learning more about who I am as a
Right.
person, which it's kind of part of the title of the podcast, right? Is just how to be a person, because that's
Yeah.
ultimately all we all are, right? We can assign ourselves an identity,
Right.
but I
It's like a
realized
role.
that
I
is
usually look at it as a role, like whatever I mentioned, like
yeah, a role.
pharmacist, a holistic health coach, a podcaster. It's just role that I'm playing.
Yes.
It
Yes.
doesn't mean this is who I am. I'm more
Yes.
than that. It's just one of the roles that I'm playing. Maybe I'm gonna play another
Yes.
role. Who knows? It's okay for you to change your passion. It's like, if you follow it, if you really, you know authentic, right? If you're really like in alignment with your thoughts, your feelings, your action, like you
Hmm.
are the person that acting on that creativity, right? Then it could be evolved over time,
Mm.
but you letting yourself go with it in terms of like whatever shape it will form.
Yeah.
You're okay with any of that because it could be something even better for you. Again, like it served
Yes.
for that point of time. Maybe in 5 years I will be a speaker on a stage.
Mm.
Maybe in another 10 years I will be an investor. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
So this is something I could be passionate about, along the road, and I'm open to it. That's the thing. You have to be
Yes.
open to the
Yes.
opportunities come your way. And if something being introduced to you and you're not closed mind, but you're open, you're listening, you always, that's why I told you about awareness and being in present moment
Hmm.
is important,
Hmm.
because a lot of times we miss the opportunities and we don't see them for
Yeah.
us. And it doesn't mean they're not here. They've been always here, but you
Yeah.
never seen them. You never pay attention to them. You ignore them. And for you to start kind of like seeing that and receiving what's coming your way intentionally, you have to be aware, you have to be present, you have to be sharp in your mind, and you
Mm.
have to see the opportunity and then take action on it and
Yeah.
see if this is something you want to do. If you don't want to do, like, don't force yourself. You
Yeah.
don't have to do it because somebody wants you or you want to impress somebody
Yeah.
or validate yourself. Not for those reasons. Intention is important. Why are you choosing to act on it, right? What is
Mm.
your why? Is it for your own joy, or is it because somebody wants you to do it? So you
Mm.
have to kind of like be uh, discern, like you have to have that discernment and
Yeah.
to like know why you're acting on it. And
Mm.
after you know that reason, after you are clear within yourself on what my values are, what my
Mm.
visions are for myself,
Yeah.
what is my passion, like, you have to know more about yourself in order to make right decisions in life.
Yeah. So I loved what you were saying too about roles instead of like taking on something as an identity.
Yeah.
And I feel like the reason is because of the other thing you said about being open. Because I
Yeah.
feel like as soon as you take on an identity, you put a label on who you are, that label comes
Hmm.
with a box, right? Where,
Right. And
like,
you're
if you
closed.
are a driver, if you are
Hmm.
a speaker, if you are a podcaster, right, whatever it might be,
Right.
there are certain things that a podcaster does and certain things a podcaster does not do, right?
Hmm.
And so you put this box around yourself. And for me, I've found that that's why I say I'm a person,
Hmm.
because ultimately I always want to be open to listening to
Yes.
what I feel compelled to do, instead of putting
Right.
myself in a box where there's a boundary of who I am and what I should do. And if I now want to follow this other thing, I have to now kill that just like you were saying about the ego death, right? Like now I have to
Right.
abandon, like, oh, I thought I was this, right? And I've
Yes.
experienced that several times, but like I said, putting that
Mhm.
label on who I am. And so
Right.
like so now I'm just like, you know what? No, I'm not any of these things. I'm just a person,
No.
man. I'm just a person, and I'm following what I feel. And now I don't have to kill off the other person. I can still do those things that I enjoy
Right.
doing, but I'm still open then to new experiences and following what I feel compelled to do. Now, the other thing that you mentioned that I think is super valuable
Hmm.
is about like finding like your thing. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's so hard to see, because for
Yeah.
you, it's so easy and it just comes so second nature that
Right.
like you don't even realize it. So for
And you
me,
overlook it for that reason.
yes, exactly. So for me, that's like talking to people. Okay.
Yeah.
And I realized in talking to people that
Yeah.
other people were like, I'm not like, they get nervous, they don't know what to say, they're
Yeah.
like, there's always awkward pauses, like all of these things, they don't know what to ask. And I'm like, I don't understand. I don't even think about it. I don't think about how to
Yeah.
have a conversation. I just have a conversation. I'm just there, right?
And you
So
having
like,
fun doing that, right?
exactly. And you know, you were talking about time.
Yeah.
We've already been talking for an hour, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
It's
It
like
feels
we
like we've
just
been talking
started.
for like 15 minutes. What? That's
I
crazy.
know.
So I liked the points you gave. I think it's a really good like kind of
Yes.
initial indicators for people. Like, what
Hmm.
is something that other people like you feel like people around you like struggle with that you're like, I don't even think about that. What's
And
something
another
where like
thing
when you're
I
doing
want to
it you lose
mention,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was just saying like
No,
a
no, no.
couple
It's just
indicators for
another
people.
thing that I want to mention that comes with that.
Yeah.
Not just what is easy for you, but also pay attention to what other people asking you for advice. Like
Yeah.
sometimes people come to you, they ask you for advice, and if you notice the patterns, right? Perhaps you may be an expert in certain like field, right? And it's easy for you to give that advice, and
Mm,
again, you don't think about it because it's easy, but maybe you can use it in order to like monetize it in some kind of way.
yeah.
And again, because you're an expert in it, it will be easy for you and you
Mm,
can use it to your own advantage, and you already know people asking you for it. Why not have it as a business, let's say, or like side hustle or whatever?
absolutely. Absolutely. It's been a great conversation, seriously. I
Yes, I
usually when we hit an
enjoy.
hour, I'm like, we could probably talk for like 3 more hours. So I gotta like wrap it up. But so like if someone's listening and they feel like they're kind of vibing with you, like can you talk about how you help people and how they can connect with
Mhm.
you to get that help?
Of course, yes. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is A like Apple Brook, Brook, and 1111.
Okay.
So you can find me there, and all the information actually listed there. And I have the tag to my podcast on my page. You can see my podcast,
Yeah.
and on the podcast page you'll see how to find me on YouTube. The name of the podcast is intern and intern podcast. I
Hmm.
have a YouTube channel, and of course it goes, Spotify, Apple, other platforms. I usually release episode every week. And
Amazing.
as if you like the conversation, that's something I love talking about: mental health, personal
Yeah.
development.
Yeah.
And I also offer coaching
Yeah.
for those who would like to dive deeper and have something that will be long lasting.
Mm,
And like I said, if you're ready for change, then I could help you with that. But this is the information that is accessible on my Instagram page, and that would be
perfect.
easy for you to find all the links.
Awesome, awesome. Anna, thanks so much. And oh yeah, I guess for myself too, I had mentioned earlier about the Habit Hacks course. That's going to be available really
Yes.
soon on howtobeaperson.co for anyone listening if they're interested in that. Um, yeah, Anna, thank you so much for coming on. I say this, I feel like I say this every time someone comes on, but it's crazy how like I was just thinking about some of this stuff and then you're like bringing it up. I'm like, it's perfect. It's perfect. So
Yes, it was
seriously,
a pleasure,
yeah,
Juliana. It was a very nice conversation, and I'm glad that we really covered a lot of important topics for people to think about because, again, like I keep repeating myself over and over, but I think it's important. The repetition is important
sure.
because it brings it to awareness, it brings it to
Hmm.
light, and people start thinking of what is
Mm,
really important here,
absolutely.
and the time that they spend in each day. Uh, it's something that they in control of, and they could start thinking, what should I dedicate my time towards starting from today, and
Yeah.
what are the habits that really, I should start looking into changing for
Mm.
my own benefit, for my own health. Because again, investing in yourself and treating yourself as a priority is just a foundation for the successful life to emerge.
So true. So true. Anna, thanks again for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate it. For everything I have to offer, visit howtobeaperson.co.